assistants who work on the project as well. So that's Lucy, Susan and Jess, who work with Wild at Heart and Connecting Steps. And we're all part of the community and engagement team at the Wildlife Trust. And Tanya's kindly asked me to spend a few minutes talking about how we have continued to deliver the Wild at Heart project over the COVID-19 pandemic. And so I think some of our long-standing members will know that we've been at Wild at Heart adapting and honing the Wild at Heart project for the past 6 years. We're now funded by a number of charities, including the Cadent, the gas company, Co-op, the National Lottery Community Fund, as well as being commissioned by Rotherham Social Prescribing Service on a weekly session in Rotherham. So I'm just going to say a few things about what we did pre-COVID, and then which now feels like a world away from how we're currently working. So we run social groups for adults with the aim of exploring local green spaces, and we use the natural world to boost well-being. We learn new skills, practice nature-based hobbies, and sort of make friends within the community. Let me just turn to the next slide. So sessions are before COVID pandemic, sessions usually started with a group chat about the day's topic. We had refreshments and we'd go on a short nature walk in the local green space just to take in the seasons and get focused on the activity we were going to do. We linked up participants with other organisations and charities and invited local experts and artists as guest speakers to join in with our sessions. And then we sometimes took minibuses to visit other local parks, nature reserves and museums. So the whole premise is to use nature as a fantastic tool to bring people together and to feel the benefits of connecting with nature in all sorts of ways, but also to do the confidence boosting activities that expand a person's social network. And people are able to make friends in a supportive setting. So we use nature to break the ice. We've been going strong, and so before March we were having weekly sessions in Longley and in Clifton Park in Rotherham, with bustling rooms full of nature activities and nature walks, often with 20 or 25 people attending each venue each week. But then March came around and the UK found ourselves in lockdown because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So that meant no more meeting in large groups face to face. We definitely couldn't carry on as we were, but we really wanted to continue to develop the project to still meet the aims of the project. So we were working with participants to ease the fear around COVID, the loneliness and the social isolation the pandemic was causing. So we worked with participants to find out what would be most useful in our limited time. And we started with phone calls to regular participants. This was about 50 people each week, which is no mean feat when it's not always convenient for the people to take your call when we're planning to make them. And for most people, this was a welcome and friendly chat where we can maintain a sense of a group, even though we're physically separated. And for those that needed some extra support, we were able to put them in touch with the services they needed, like to arrange emergency food parcels, or for more complex situations, perhaps we link people back to the advisors at Rotherham Social Prescribing Service so they could get the support they needed. But we were a really important contact for those people, and in some cases we really prevented that individual slipping through the net and reaching that serious crisis. So it was really good that we decided to carry on with Wild at Heart. So initially we aimed to follow the programme that we had already planned from March into June. And we did this by making fact sheets to cover the activities we had planned. We created postal packs of seasonal nature activities for people to try out at home. And over time, we honed these to reflect people's interests. And we've sent these out every 3 to 4 weeks since March. They've had nature crafts, seasonal nature spotter sheets, which are already available from the Wildlife Trusts, recipes for wacky things like dandelion fritters and edible flower ice cubes, and then more traditional things like seasonal soups and crumbles. One participant said that he never cooked anything more than cheese on toast before, but now is baking our herby scones and a variety of seasonal soups. And we've made the most of the freely available resources on the internet, things like the nature colouring in sheets and poems. And then participants have helped us create crossword clues and vocab for word searches, which we've used a handy app to create the puzzles. So that's a really good example of how people have worked together to produce the packs. So the things we offered were the regular phone calls, the postal activity packs, and then we also worked on the digital content, things like the Facebook posts. We followed 30 Days Wild, so we had every day a scheduled post with an inspirational idea for people to try, and Facebook is a great place for people to share what they've seen, so send in photos and write little messages to share with each other. So we've built up quite a good community on there. We have also been working with about 5 or 6 local community organisations to share the nature packs with their own participants, and this has been excellent for both sort of strengthening the relationships between organisations, but also to know that the Wild at Heart project and the Sheffield and Rotherham Wildlife Trust message is being spread far and wide. So you can see the volume of packs we send. It's about 50 a time. And Wild at Heart works best when it is delivering like a meaningful mini projects within our Wild at Heart's programme. And these are following ideas that come from participants. And we were inspired by Jane, one of the Wild at Heart participants from Rotherham, who made some embroidered bunting for the Beautiful Borders competition last year. So we decided that as a group, we could make some more. So we posted out calico triangles for people to decorate with their natural dyes, and then decorate however they wish to, with embroidery or even drawing, felt tip pens, whatever. And then people can send them back in and we'll stitch them together for future displays. People are still working on them and we receive them every week. We've also improve the Wild at Heart Facebook page, where participants have helped us go through the content, making it more relevant and generally improving it. So that's been a really big task, and it's really great to see the real breadth of the things that we do up there as information and resources for everybody to see. And we discovered some hidden talents. We made videos as part of our Wild at Heart at Home series, and this brought out all sorts of creative skills. Susan, one of the project assistants, even created a Wild at Heart at Home den in her shed, which she used as a base for her filming. These were so useful for participants, and some people shared that they watched them just to feel less lonely, as it was someone they knew that was talking. We took in feedback about the topics of interest from our phone calls. For example, one participant wanted to learn about how to take plant cuttings to grow in her garden, so Susan made a video of that. So the natural rhythm of the postal activity packs, the regular phone calls and lots of video content served us really well through the initial lockdown and well into the summer. But by the end of summer, people were getting really interested in meeting up in small groups. We knew we couldn't meet in our full groups of 25, but we could scale things back and meet in groups of 6 with a full risk assessment to minimise risks of spreading COVID-19. So since October, we've been doing weekly walks in Clifton Park, with each member of staff leading walks exploring the park. Through careful planning and about a zillion phone calls each week, we're able to meet everybody who wants to attend, and with other regular reminders to stay 2 meters apart if we drift together closer as we're chatting. We've had some really truly exceptional nature walks, and it really is amazing how much we notice when we have to be outside. We use the 5 pathways to nature connection to tune into what is around us, or even just noticing the 3 good things we can see to get us feeling more positive. So we've had so there's some of the things we've seen. So regularly we have a jay that squawks at us until we move on, several robins and blackbirds that we can watch foraging for food. And we've looked in the leaf litter for creepy crawlies, read poems and had mindful moments meeting the trees. And after our stroll around the park, we connected with people and the simple, everyday natural wonders. We all feel so much better for it. We've recently used video conferencing to run nature-based activities, as we've just been funded to start a new group and are using these seasonal soup sessions as a way to get to know the new people before we're able to meet face to face. So what have we learned? We found over the last year that we've had to adapt quickly to the changing circumstances. The needs of the participants haven't changed and have shown an increased need for accessing nature to support mental well-being. We found that nature can be met in a personal way as a way to ease anxiety and depression, as a great tool to bring people together and boost confidence and well-being. Over the years, we've become skilled in working with people carefully to create the space for these experiences of a local park and green spaces so they become meaningful to them. This works so much better than a blanket approach of telling someone to get outside and enjoy nature. We're able to provide that choice to people about how they engage with the project, and this helps build confidence as they find a meaningful connection with nature and their local community. So thank you very much for allowing me to talk about Wild at Heart. It's my favourite topic, so supporting wellbeing through nature connection. I can talk endlessly, so I'm very happy to answer any questions anyone has at the end of Mike's talk. So thank you very much for this evening.
Thank you very much, Jenny.
Perfect, let me just stop sharing.
Yeah, thank you, and then we'll pass over to Mike. Thanks, Mike, when you're ready.
I'm just sharing now.
Oh.
Good evening, everyone. Can they all see that big picture of me with a fuzzy tawny owl?
Yes, thank you.
Fantastic. Tanya can, and thank you, Jenny, for that. I mean, mental health and physical health and wildlife are the perfect triangular combination. So great to see you've been interacting with so many people during this, frankly, miserable time. First and foremost, thank you to Tanya and the Sheffield and Rotherham Wildlife Trust for inviting me to come and join this series of lectures, keeping you entertained while you're stuck at home, because I understand you're tier 3. I don't want to boast, but I'm only tier 2 down here. That's the way I'm sure Bristol has just gone down to tier 2 as well. So hopefully I'll get a chance to kind of still be out and about on a regular basis. So first and foremost, I am the president, or sorry, I should say I'm a patron of Sheffield and Rotherham Wildlife Trust, which I gratefully accepted the request from Liz, this chief exec, a few years ago. And you may ask, why is somebody who was born in the Midlands and who lives southwest of Bristol been invited to be the patron? Well, it all goes back to my roots. My father's side are born and bred Shire Green, Sheffield. And I, as a kid, went to Sheffield all the time, constantly staying with my nana over in Sheffield, over in Shire Green, S5. So I've got very fond memories of spending a huge amount of time up in Sheffield. And then as a university student, I was at Nottingham. So I seem to remember maybe going to the lead mill once or twice, and know a few of the sites that are a few of the nature sites, for example, like the North Peaks, that are obviously very important to the good folk of Sheffield and beyond. So my talk this evening will be my wild lockdown. When I spoke to Tanya, she asked me to perhaps give a little talk mentioning something about what I've been through over the last kind of 6, 7, 8 months, ever since this virus came and blighted our lives. So I thought I'd talk a little bit to start with about who I am and what I do, and principally answer 2 questions, which I'll mention in a minute. But for those of you that don't know me, frankly, you're a disgrace. because the One Show's been running for 15 years, and I've been presenting on the One Show for 14 of those. I think I've done something like 450 films on the One Show, pontificating about everything from bumblebees to basking sharks. There's hardly anything or anywhere I haven't either filmed or been to. I think I've done something like 6 films on peregrines and 5 films on water voles. So they're probably the 2 most popular wildlife critters in the UK, I suppose you could say. So I am incredibly lucky to do that, and it continues. I'm still as busy as everyone on the One Show. And for those of you that perhaps watch Emmerdale Farm or the Channel 4 News, or just hear that one da 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 da, one da 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 da, and then turn off because they can't stand it, then I'll show you a clip of some of the things that I've got up to. This is called a show reel. This is a few highlights of what some of the great things I've done on the One Show, or some of the exciting things I've done. Here we go.
Oh my word! You're never going to believe this. We've just spotted killer whales off the front of the boat. Right at the bottom of the rear, we've got an otter. There it is! Oh, I've just seen the dorsal fin and the tail fin together. They almost look like this big shark. It isn't. Just one very large one. Stuart's going in for one of the chips. Quite feisty. They're huge, in fact. There's a kingfisher just over my left shoulder. It's so exciting. There we go. There's the blow. There's the blow. I'm suited up. I've got my flippers, snorkel and mask. The only way I'm going to estimate the size of that beast is to swim next to it. Golden eagle. Wow. Just got a little bit of those massive pectoral fins there. And here it comes again. Golden eagle chick in my arms has to be the most precious thing I've ever carried. Oh my word, that is a life highlight. Oh, yes. Get in there, saw the bridge. Oh, it was glorious. Absolutely brilliant, my first comeback. Oh, what a day. That's why I watch wildlife, for moments like that.
There we go, a little flavour of some of the things. Obviously, I'm well aware you can't see either basking shark or humpback whale in Sheffield or Rotherham. But if you do go over to Whitby, you can see things like minke whale. So you're not as far away from the likes of that wildlife as you think, actually. Anyway, I said I'd principally start by answering 2 questions, which is how I got into wildlife and how I got into telly. And then I'll talk a little bit about my wild lockdown. This is a collector's item of me. This is me with hair, a young naturalist in the making. I think this was probably taken at university, where I mentioned earlier, I went to Nottingham University. And I heard Chris Packham a few years ago on his Desert Island Discs, and he said he was birding from the womb, which is quite an interesting concept when you get around to it, when you think about it, should I say. That wasn't the case with me. Both my parents were teachers. Neither of them were biology teachers. My mum was an English teacher. My dad was a French and Italian teacher. And so I'm the middle of 3 boys. I got an elder brother who was not at all interested in wildlife. My younger brother wasn't interested either. So I didn't really have anyone who was a guiding light who showed me the way. The thing that started me off was this book. And if you can see it here, it's called Bruce Campbell's Guide to Birds in Colour. And I got this present for my 9th birthday. And it's a wonderful book. It's by a chap called Bruce Campbell, and the illustrator is Carl Arger Tingerland. And if I open up, there are 256 different British birds, all different ones from around the UK. Some residents, some summer visitors, some winter visitors. And it was beautiful. I had quite strict parents, so I went to bed quite early, and I used to take a torch to bed with me. and read this book, make a hump under the duvet, and just look at these wonderful birds that I wanted to see, like red-backed shrike, Montague's harrier, Pomerine skewer. And I thought to myself, I'm going to see every single bird in this book. And my birthday was in November. This was for my 9th birthday. So I persuaded my parents to get me a pair of binoculars, not like the ones you can see here on the picture that are roof prism. These were Poro prism binoculars, like the old German U-boat binoculars. So you lift them like clunk. They were Prinz with a Z. And I remember they cost £19.99 from Dixon's. They were frankly awful. So I used to lift them up and the birds would jump further away seemingly. So the first place, of course, I started bird watching was my own back garden. Blue-tip robin, blackbird, song thrush, great tit. Learnt the birds, the males, the females, the songs, the calls, learnt them on my own. You know, back in the day when you put bacon rind out or a bit of lard or some bread, not the kind of sunflower hearts or Niger seeds or amazing feeders you get these days. And then once I'd seen most of the birds in my garden, I started to wander to a reserve called Doxey Marshes that was a site managed by the Staffordshire Wildlife Trust, another of the kind of whole network of wildlife trusts around the UK. And it was an urban wetland grazing marsh. And that's why I went for my dose of wildfowl and waders. So I get widgeon, teal, gadwall, shoveler, potchard, and then I get redshank and snipe, lapwing, golden plover, all those birds. The place I first saw my first peregrine falcon was over Doxey Marshes. And then basically I was ticking off the birds in this book, seeing the garden birds, seeing the wetland birds. I needed to get a dose of proper woodland birds. So I used to walk up to Stafford Castle. And if you've ever been up the M6 between junctions 13 and 14, there's a castle that, right by the motorway that sticks on top of a hill. It's an old motte and a bailey. And actually the hill is very old, but the castle's a Victorian construct. The castle's not at all old. But surrounding it is this lovely secondary growth woodland of oak, ash, hazel, beech, and all the common trees that we know well. So I'd go up there for greater spotted woodpecker, nuthatch, tree creeper, marsh tit back in the day. And I used to walk through mature farmland to get to the woodland there. And I remember once going up and I used to have my binoculars around my neck. I used to stick my book down my trousers because for some reason I never had a rucksack. And I had a snorkel parka. I had a green one with the fur around the hood. And wandered up one spring day, just short of the woodland, there's a bird perched on a branch. And us birders talk about this phrase, birding jizz. Something tells me we've never seen this bird before. And it was sat on a branch about a metre up, and then it just took off. Snap of the bill, caught an insect, land on the branch. Took off again, caught another insect, landed back on the branch. And it was hoovering up all these insects. And I thought, I've got a flycatcher. So I opened my book, 2 species of flycatcher, a pied, which it definitely wasn't because it wasn't black and white, or a spotted, which is kind of spotted, but not if you know spotted flycatchers. And it was a spotted flycatcher. And I just had this beautiful moment watching it, lost track of time until I heard some noise from behind me. And there was a couple jogging, husband and wife, or boyfriend and girlfriend jogging in their kind of lycra. And bear in mind, this was back in the 70s, when if you were walking around with a pair of binoculars, you were probably up to no good. So I was left with the dilemma as to what to do. Do I just stand up and go, hello? Because I was kind of half on the footpath, half in the hedge while I was watching this bird. Or do I do what David Attenborough, my hero, and David Bellamy, what they would do, and then just use my green camouflage and hide in the hedge and wait till they run past? So I chose the latter, and they were running up, and then the woman must have just caught the fur from my hood sticking out of the hedge, and she went like this, she went, ah! And then she said, did you see the bloke in the bushes? And the guy said, yes, obviously a pervert. And I thought, it's not a pervert, it's not a peewit. I know a peewit, that's a green plover or a lapwing. I didn't actually know what a pervert was back then. I do now. Anyway, that was that kind of epoch-making moment. So fast forward to, went to Nottingham University, as I mentioned earlier, and did botany at Nottingham. Had a great time. For those of you who have been to university, you know, you get a first or a second class degree that's 2-1 or 2-2, then you get a third. And I got a 2-2, which is the Desmond tutor, or the bar drinker's degree. But I like to think I got a double first in birding and birding. So by day I was bunking off lectures and going twitching, rarities all over the place, with a few people I'd finally met who were interested. And by night I was birding in nightclubs. So I graduated, worked for the RSPB, worked for the North Wales Wildlife Trust for a while, one of the sister organisations of Sheffield and Rotherham. And then I thought, I'll go back to university. And I went to Bangor in North Wales and did a master's, a one-year course in ecology. And a master's course is 1 year, and then in its entirety, 9 months kind of lectures, practicals, courses, and then a 3-month thesis at the end. And one of the ex-students, I don't think it's Cedar Pointer, came was working out in Ecuador in South America. So you can see South America on the map. Right on the equator, there's a small orange blob on the Pacific side called Ecuador, which is one of the richest and most biodiverse countries on the planet, despite being pretty diminutive in size. So we said, do any of the crop of students want to come to Ecuador to do their master's thesis? And I said yes with a few other people, and I went off to Ecuador. And after that, I followed an amazing period in my life. First and foremost, I worked in Ecuador. These are the cloud forests. Everyone thinks of South American jungles. They think of the Amazon, which is 2,500 miles of flat rainforest. Whereas this is the cloud forest, because of course the Andes straddles Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Chile, Argentina, running all the way down the backbone of South America. And it's like a big letter M in Ecuador. So you get the Western Cordilleras here, you get the Pacific, the Western Cordilleras, you get the Inter-Andean corridor where my face is, where Quito is, and then you get the Oriente slope, which slopes all the way down to the Amazon rainforest that then runs all the way to Brazil and beyond. So I was working on the slopes of the cloud forest at about 1,400 to 2,000 meters, so quite high, higher than anywhere in Britain, higher than Ben Nevis, for example. So forest on slopes, and had the most amazing opportunity there, working there. And then I came back, got a job working in Vietnam, in the forest of Vietnam, doing survey work in the rainforest, identifying all the birds, the bees, and the butterflies. And then I came back to Britain and worked in Africa, worked in Tanzania, in the rainforest of Tanzania, not the savannas like we can see here, which is Tarangire, which is famous for its elephants, or I think it's Lake Manyara actually, famous for its elephants. I was working in the ancient forests that rise up out of the savannas, and are lots of sites, big endemism, which means restricted species that are confined to very small areas, where you find, for example, colobus monkeys and African violets and things like bush robins and wonderful creatures. So I thought, wow, what an amazing opportunity. I've been all over the place. So I came back to Britain and needed a job. So I got a job as a life model. I needed to raise some money. So I basically got up in the morning, got dressed, went to work, took my clothes off. This isn't me, for the record. It would have been me, only without the underpants on, because I was a life model for an art college. So I had to do it complete raving, start raving naked. And then I go home at the end of the day and put my clothes back on. So I spent 9 months raising money and thought, well, I've been to South America, I've been to Asia, I've been to Africa, where's my favorite place? And I'm talking now how I got into television. I thought, well, Ecuador was brilliant. I fancy another trip back to Ecuador. So I had to raise some money. I'd already raised a little bit of money with the life modeling. And a friend of a friend knew a certain Linda McCartney. So I wrote to Linda and said, dear Linda, I'm working as a biologist and I'd love to go to the cloud forest of Ecuador to study the amazing hummingbirds and tanagers there and all the bromeliads and orchids. Would you give me some money? And I was trying to raise £7,000 and I'd raised a grand total of 1,000. And she said, I'll give you £6,000 on one condition. I said, yeah, what's the condition? I said, that you're vegetarian. are you vegetarian? And I lied. I have to say now, Linda, bless her bless her cotton socks, I am a vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian for about 2 years. But at the time, I told a slight porky to to the wife of one of the most famous pop stars in the world, and said I was a vegetarian. But I am now, Linda, for the record. So I went to Ecuador, and that's where I was working. You see here, I mean, we're talking about biodiversity in a place like Ecuador. I mean, in Britain, we've got 3 species of snake. We've got the adder, we've got the grass snake, and we've got the smooth snake. And here's 3 snakes that I found in 5 minutes. There's a rat snake in my left hand. There's a small boa constrictor or python around my neck. And the very dangerous one is in my right hand. That's a fer-de-lance. That's quite a dangerous, sort of basically a member of the rattlesnake family. And I looked at this picture recently and thought, I'm left-handed and I've got the dangerous one in my right hand. I don't quite know what I was doing there. Anyway, on to me working in television. So I was out there back in Ecuador, running conservation projects, and Channel 5 were making a series called Eco Warriors, all about Brits in the back of beyond doing cool stuff. And a small camera crew of 3 people wanted to make a 10-minute film about me. So they came out, and we spent 3 days wandering around the cloud forest, filming beautiful views of the forest and filming some of the wildlife. And the time came to interview me. So they said, oh, Mike, it's obvious you're into birds. I was like, yeah, I like my birds. And they said, right, okay, we're going to get the cameraman to turn over. I was like, pardon? Get the tape to turn over. And make sure we're, with the sound recorder, so we're clear for sound with his big microphone boom on the end of his pole. And then when I say action, could you talk passionately about the birds? Could you maybe do an impersonation of the birds? And I said, yeah, probably. And so he said, right, okay, turn the camera over, clear for sound, and action, Mike. So there was an amazing bird here in the forest of Ecuador, in the cloud forest, called the Andean cock of the rock. The males are bright fuchsia pink with black and silver wings. They've got yellow legs like a chicken and a big white eye with a black pupil and a huge big crest. That's the males. The females are dull, boring, and dowdy. But as we all know, it's the females that rule the roost. Now, the cock of the rock is a lekking species. So every day, dawn and dusk, the males, 10 or 15 of them, go to an ancestral lekking tree. They have their own particular branch, which is their display court, and they're waiting for a female to turn up. And suddenly one of the dull olive green females turns up to watch them. And they look across, they see the female, their crest goes up, and they start flapping those black and silver wings. And they're going, oh, oh, and they're doing that. All of them are going crazy. They're looking over the female, seeing if they're catching her eye. And she's just watching them, and she just goes, whatever, and then just flies off. And all the males are downhearted and dejected. And then another female turns up, and they go for it again. So I did that impersonation, and the director was, okay, have you any more? I said, yes, there's a wonderful bird here called a toucan barbet. And like the Andean cock of the rock, the male and female look identical plumage-wise. But it's like these birds have been designed by the great evolutionary designer with his berry on his palette of paints. And he starts off with a black face and a little red eye, grey around the nape and the throat, and a beautiful vermilion-coloured upper chest, going to kind of orange, going to lemon, kind of, I suppose, burnt sienna on the flanks, olive green on the back, a slate grey tail and a blue rump. These birds are technically what's known as Bobby Dazzlers. So the male and female did this antiphonal duet. So they stand next to each other on a branch, and the male just looks at the female, and the female looks at the male, and the male goes, ah, then the female goes, ah, and the male goes, ah, 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 getting faster and faster, almost like an ambulance in the rainforest. And I did impersonation, and the director was, you're wasted out here. You should come back to Britain and get a job in television. And one of the reasons why I did come back was because I was pretty ill. One of my nicknames is Britain's most diseased man, because I've had so many weird and wonderful diseases. But I thought, well, I'll move down to Bristol. This is BBC Broadcasting House in Bristol, where the NHU, the Natural History Unit, make Blue Planet 2, Planet Earth 2, Spring Watch, all the Steve Backshall films, Country File, and all the One Show films are made out of this building as well, the One Show films that I make. So I moved down to Bristol and then promptly moved out to 9 miles south of Bristol, called a beautiful place called Chew Valley Lake. That's not quite the view out of my bedroom window, unfortunately. It's the lake's about 500 yards away, but that's where I regularly go birding. And then started my career in telly. So here we are. Obviously, I've traveled all around the British Isles. I mean, really, really lucky. I mean, you look at, there's the Outer Hebrides there, and you've got Barra, Benbecula, sort of South Uist, North Uist, Harris, Lewis. You've got the Uist on the left. You've got the Shants inside. You've got Sula Scare to the north, the Monarchs to the left. I've been to all of those. I've traveled all around Britain. I've been so lucky to do the job that I do. And it's been an absolute privilege doing that. But my latest project really is, I became a dad quite late in life. This is my son, Zachary, that's him pretty young there on the Somerset Levels bird watching with me. I think he's probably about 18 months, 2 years there. And he's actually, it's the first time he's ever looking down a scope. And he's looking at a Hudsonian godwit, which is an incredibly rare bird. So I basically twitched a Hudsonian godwit. There's been about 2 or 3 of them in the UK. And I got the bird, just that bird in the scope. And I was like, can you see the bird? Like, can you see the bird in the scope? Can you see the bird? He was like, yes, Daddy. He goes, that's an incredibly rare bird, Zachary. Went, what's a rare bird? So anyway, whether we can remember or not, the first bird he's ever seen through a telescope is a Hudsonian godwit. So my mission now, apart from world peace and getting rid of that infernal environmental pain, Donald Trump, is to kind of carry on doing what I'm doing, carry on preaching about wildlife and what a glory and joy it is to have wildlife in your life, but also be a tutor to somebody and pass on the wildlife torch to the next generation. Because frankly, I hope they do a better job of looking after it than we have. I mean, most of the ecological devastation has happened in the last 50 or 60 years, which is my lifetime. I mean, back in the 70s, I was born late 60s, back in the 70s when I was born, I mean, farmland birds were everywhere. I mean, heathlands was a really common habitat. I mean, my lifetime has presided over ecological devastation in this country. It's incredibly worrying. So hopefully people like Zachary and Greta Thunberg and Maya Rose Craig, who lives close to me in the Chew Valley, and all these young people are going to really carry the torch and do a better job than we are. So really, the television is a sideline, and making sure that my boy is interested in wildlife is really important. And already the signs are good, because they say you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But wildlife is such an easy sell. All these books are wildlife based, like Elmer the Elephant and the Gruffalo, and all these books are wildlife inspired. The Snail on the Whale is a brilliant book. So all these stories, basically, wildlife is easy. It's just getting them interested in wildlife. I mean, if you're a parent, you should be taking your child outside. If you're a grandparent, you should be taking your grandchildren outside and showing them the great outdoors. It is COVID free. It's astonishing. No one catches COVID on a nature reserve because it's just too much fresh air and no one around in these places. So anyway, this is an article that me and Zachary wrote, I wrote, talking about, for Plant Life, talking about me and Zachary plant spotting during lockdown. We go out for an hour with the dog, go looking for wild plants all around where I lived. There's wild plants everywhere, along the roadside verges, kind of, weeds in the middle of the road, kind of anywhere and everywhere you can find wild plants. And then I pitched a few ideas to the One Show and said, can I do a film with my son Zachary, all about wildlife in lockdown? And so this is the first film that we did. So this is my wild lockdown with my boy, right in the heart of COVID, right in the teeth of COVID. Everything was closed in late March, early April.
I have a passion for British wildlife, especially birds. But like most people, I'm not going anywhere just at the minute, so I'm at home in Somerset. Do you know what? You don't have to travel far to appreciate the wonders of nature, and being on lockdown means I get the time to enjoy the wildlife just beyond my doorstep. What's that, Zachary? Bird spotting time. So cool. This is the perfect chance to spend some quality time with my son Zachary. It's 6:30 in the morning and we're going to see how much wildlife we can spot from dawn till dusk. A lot of us might be on the go slow at the moment, but of course for wildlife, spring is the busiest time of the year. And with less people and traffic around, the dawn chorus sounds amazing.
Oh, that's apologies. I think I've accidentally stopped it. I did this yesterday. Well, I'll try again. Sorry.
Wildlife, spring is the busiest time of the year. And with less people and traffic around, the dawn chorus sounds amazing. Your favourite bird singing?
Robin.
Yeah. Oh, wren. It's got 2 trills.
Just
So that's come all the way from where?
Africa.
Yeah, boom. 20 minutes in and we're off to a flying start. So chiff-chaff, great tit, blackbird, robin,
Corridor. Wren.
wren, 6, dog, 7. Zachary and I have a plan to see some of these birds in a little more detail. For both our spring migrants and our winter visitors, they desperately need to refuel before the breeding season. So what better way than to fill our feeding station? It's a win-win for us and them. Time for 11s and to watch who'll arrive. Oh, there we go. Soon we're rewarded with a charm of goldfinches. I love that gold colour. That's a male.
That is brilliant.
For 3 finches on the feeder in the last 2 minutes. Our garden is Finch City. It's really warming up now, so the hats are off and the pond net is out.
Daddy, I've got some newts.
Well done, son. And Zachary knows a thing or two about newts.
It's male smooth newt. It's got no feet and it's got the crest. Can you see?
Yeah. All the way down its tail.
Yeah, and it's got a bright orange belly.
After lunch, the garden's fully warmed up, so it's the best time to look for the sun seekers. This is my favourite part of the garden. It's festooned with flowers. Perfect nectar and pollen for those spring insects just out of hibernation. There's plenty of fabulous insects here, but what I'm after is something a little bit different. Do you know what that is?
Can you fly?
Yes!
It's a fly, but it's just trying to disguise itself as a beast so people think it can sting it, but actually it's absolutely harmless.
We've seen loads of wildlife all day, and one species in particular has just returned to my garage to breed. We're the proud custodians of a small roost and less horseshoe bats. Conditions for bats emerging are perfect. As a protected species, we can't disturb them, but Zachary can count them, and my bat detector will pick up their calls. I've stood outside my garage waiting for them to emerge every time I think they're not going to come out, and they always do. Time is 8:10, and my money's on about 2 minutes from now. First one just came out. Flew really fast over the gate. Wonderful sound. Half Dalek, half bird. Isn't that amazing? Here you go, hang on. Oh, that was amazing. Did you see that? Dalek 2 came out there. That is the most beautiful sound. Half an hour later, the count is in. And Zachary, the grand total of lesser horseshoe bats is
11. I'll tell Mummy how many we've got.
wherever you live in Britain, there is wildlife all around you. All you need to do is slow down, look, and listen. Come on, Zachary, bedtime. Well done. Good night.
There we go. Just a little flavour of the first video that I did with Zachary, and it echoes what Jenny said in her talk at the start. Wherever you look, you'll find wildlife. There's wildlife you found just beyond your doorstep. So this is me and Zachary. I think his mummy, my wife, took that picture. So gorgeous picture up in Scotland, and that's us looking right over the Moray Firth, looking for things like common scoters and velvet scoters with our dog Bramble. So kind of Zachary's two passions really are kind of being outside, looking for wildlife. I think he's got a shell in his hand, and also hanging out with his best mate, the dog. So we pitched the first film. And it took forever to persuade them to go for it, and they absolutely loved it. So they said, "Oh, we'd love another film." The lockdown went on a little bit further, and we got to May, and things were slowly opening up. We were able to go a little bit further afield rather than just our own back garden. So I suggested to the wine show that we go to the Somerset Levels, where I know very well, which is wonderful for wildlife, and about a half hour, 40 minutes from where I live, and do another film with Zachary. So they decided to go for that. And this is the film. There we go. This is me and Zachary, part 2 on the Somerset Levels.
As a bird enthusiast, there are many sights that have enthralled me over the years. Oh, there it goes, flying. Wonderful. And my 7-year-old son, Zachary, is a chip off the old block. We've got a special mission today. Put the helmets in. Let's go! We're going on a bike ride in search of some rare birds. And Shatwick Heath National Nature Reserve in Somerset is the perfect place to look for them. And there's one particular thing that Zachary has never seen before, which is...
Bittern!
You don't make life easy, do you? That's a tricky one. If we're lucky, we might see birds of prey like marsh harriers, or maybe even a hobby. As well as being home to lots of wildlife, it's also great for bikes here. Zachary, do you know why they call this place the Somerset Levels?
Because it's level?
Because it's flat as a pancake. Come on, race you, go! Come on! Because it's so flat, sounds travel right across the reserve. And some of them are just wonderful. Bittern. So it's only the males that are calling. And do you know why they're calling?
To tell other males that this is my patch of reeds, and also trying to get a lady.
Lady! Absolutely. It's pretty tricky to see them amongst the reeds, but if we're patient... Bit of flag there. Have you got it, Zachary?
Yeah, got it.
Oh, I see that. It's super secretive because it likes to spend most of its life in the reed beds, hiding away. With wildlife all around, there's time to stop and see what comes to us. Plus, it's a chance to rest our weary legs. Had a good morning, haven't we?
Yeah.
Getting warmer now. Have you noticed? We're starting to see lots more insects.
Yeah. I've seen dragonfly, butterfly, and damselfly.
And it's afternoon. Hobby! Hobby! See it, Zachary?
Yeah, I can see it.
It's after dragonflies and damselflies.
Yeah.
And it's like a mini peregrine falcon, but it's not here all year, is it?
No, it's in Africa.
What a brilliant sighting. That is a special bird. Well done. We're certainly not done yet, though. There's plenty more to see. Look at that. Right past us.
Great white egret.
Great white egret. Massive, aren't they? Even taller than you, probably, I'd say. They're about that high when they stop, if they're craning their neck up. Actually, that's an incredibly rare bird. When I was a child, I would never have seen great white egrets. They've only really started breeding in Britain in the last 10 years. And as the day warms up, it's all going on.
Daddy, what's that?
A good bird. Come on. You see it?
It's a marsh harrier.
Well spotted, Zachary. That's a male marsh harrier. Oh, it's chasing off a crow.
Oh, cool.
Isn't that amazing? Once threatened with near extinction in the UK, these magnificent birds are now a regular sight around our reed beds and marshes. And as our bike ride comes to an end, it's time to take stock of what we've seen. Best moment for you?
Marsh harrier.
For me, hobby. Grab your helmet. Let's go.
There we go. So never work with children and animals. But you go to somewhere like the Somerset Levels in May, you're going to be guaranteed to certainly see marsh harrier, great white egret. Hobby was a good find, and the bittern was really exciting to get as well, because you can hear them booming all the time, but trying to actually see them can be tricky. So this is just taken very recently, actually. This is at Chew Valley Lake. This is the young naturalist with his binoculars and his faithful hound behind him. And the one show we're absolutely thrilled with both films, and they said, we think we'd like one more. What can you give us? So I had a bit of a racking our brains, trying to ring the changes. We've done garden, we've done cycling. So I thought there'd be a really nice idea if we can get Zachary into the water and go and do something ridiculously ambitious like snorkeling with seals. So we went down to Lundy Island off the Bristol Channel, and it was quite an ambitious film. The water's cold, Zachary can swim, but getting a 7-year-old into the water with quite a big swell when it's very cold was tricky, but I think we just about pulled it off. So this is the last film I'm going to show you. This is the last of our trilogy of father and son films that we've just with all the same message, really, trying to encourage people in this most difficult of years to try and encourage them to get out and about. So there's a bit of reverb there from someone, don't know who that is. Anyway, trying this most difficult of years to try and encourage people to get out and about and not get too worried and stuck indoors, and just go and enjoy the countryside wherever they could. So this is the final film of me and Zachary. This is father and son snorkeling for seals, or snorkeling with seals.
I've recently been making the most of time in the great outdoors with my son Zachary. Today we've come to the seaside town of Ilfracombe in North Devon. We're off on a bucket list adventure over the water to Lundy Island, because this is the best time of year to see one very special marine mammal. So Zachary, we're going to go 2 hours in that direction, right to the middle of the Bristol Channel.
To Lundy to watch seals?
You got it.
What's he done? He's muted himself, the noodle. Oh.
We've lost the sound.
Hi Mike, we haven't got any sound on this video. Should there be audio with it? Hi Mike, is there meant to be audio with this video? Okay, thank you very much, Mike. Are you still there? We haven't lost you, have we?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, thanks, Mike. We can hear you.
Sorry about that. I forgot to unmute, and then the cursor goes weird on me. But anyway, that's my year. Trying to make the best of a frankly awful year. Enjoying what's close to home. Enjoying my time with my family. Trying to stay sane, and just enjoying wildlife, frankly. Pushing an open door really with my boy, which is really exciting to see that he's as interested in wildlife as I am. So I think I'm more than happy to answer questions if anybody has any, and yes. I'll stop screen sharing.
Fab, thank you very much. Yes, I can ask you the questions that people have been putting in the chat. Thank you for that, Mike. It was a really informative and interesting presentation, and I know everyone really enjoyed it. So thank you very much. So just to kick off with the first question. Did you get to tick off seeing all the birds in your birds in colour book, or have any still eluded you? Very good question.
There were 256 birds in that book, and I've seen 255 of them. The only bird I've not seen in this book is quail. I've heard them 7 or 8 times, but I've never ever actually seen a quail in the wild. And I tried to see them last year, and I've just seen people very kindly putting, in fact I was on mute, and I was on mute, sorry about that. I tried to see quail last year and failed once again. So birders have this phrase called tart's tick, which is a bird that you should have seen given your level of knowledge, and I still have yet to see quail. So that's the one bird that I still need to see, and then I will have finished the book. So a very good question.
Thank you. And do you have a favourite local bird watching spot?
Interestingly enough, my back garden is one of them. I think I've got 85 species on my garden list. I'm very lucky. I live next to Chew Valley Lake, so when a shoveler or a pochard or a tufted duck flies over, then I kind of count that as my garden. My garden, I love going to Somerset Levels because I do quite a lot of touring there, and probably the Highlands of Scotland. I spent a lot of time up in Speyside, so anywhere that's got crested tits, capercaillies, ptarmigan, dotterel. I love the Highlands of Scotland, so I'll be greedy, Tanya, and have 3. My own garden, the Somerset Levels, and the Scottish Highlands.
Thank you very much. Next question. You say that one of the films the viewers most appreciated was one about peregrines, and yet just today I've seen comments from raptor haters on the RSPB Facebook thread. What proportion of the population you meet are anti-birds of prey, would you say? Or do you think your work helps educate people about the value of properly functioning ecosystems, including predators?
Good question. I'm sorry to kind of hear that people are still kind of misinformed, uninformed people who just basically don't understand how food chains work, and kind of the fact that if there's lots of prey, there's lots of predators. If there's no prey, there's no predators. It's a difficult one. I don't think that I move in certain circles. I move in circles with people who are like making wildlife programs. I move in circles with people who are also passionate about wildlife. So to a certain extent, I'm in an echo chamber of people who think like me, think that peregrine falcons are one of the most amazing birds in the world. But there are a few people out there who are ignorant, who just don't want to understand and refuse to understand. And obviously you live close to the Peak District, and there have been issues there with raptor persecution, which are well known. I do a lot of work for Inside Out, which has unfortunately just been decommissioned. And I did a piece about predators, peregrine nests being robbed in the Peak District, quite recent, only last year actually. So there are still ignorant people out there, but I think we're winning the battle. Peregrines are doing well, golden eagles are doing better, hen harriers are on a slight upswing, certainly in England, but you know, we're talking maybe 7 or 8 pairs of hen harriers when there should be 250 pairs of hen harriers. So we're a long way short. But I just think we've got to keep banging the drum, be it on television, be it through the Sheffield and Rotherham Wildlife Trust, be it through talking to your friends and family. I mean, I've met people who say, I hate sparrowhawks. It's like, because they take the birds. I mean, well, if it weren't sparrowhawks, you'd be up to your eyeballs in blue tits. I mean, they take the ones that are ill, they take the ones that aren't paying attention, the dopey ones, the weak ones. The strongest survive. The strongest blue tits will never get caught, and they'll pass on their generation. And you only need one adult blue tit and one of the chicks from one nest to survive, to breed the following season, and the population of blue tits will stay the same. So I think anyone who says that birds of prey are a pain and are just misinformed. So you've just got to try and talk to them, and if they won't listen, then move on and listen to people who will.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much. 2 more questions. You mentioned a hope for people to leave the environment in a better place. What's the single most important action you'd recommend everyone attending this talk to do to help nature's recovery?
Really good one. If a couple of things, if I may. One is just talk to everybody who's interested, and just share the love, share the passion. I mean, wildlife watching is an incredibly broad church. And you know, if it's people who are into lichens or into birds or mammals or frogs or whatever, we've all got a shared passion. And certainly what Jenny was saying earlier on, I mean, wildlife is so good for us. It's good for me physically because I'm out walking. It's good for me mentally because I kind of, when I'm out bird watching, I kind of forget about my worries elsewhere. And I just concentrate on enjoying the day and enjoying what I'm looking for, and using my skills as a naturalist to track things down. So I think certainly just share the love, share the passion. I think is probably the most important thing. And finally, if I could say, I mean, just be turned on to the wildlife on your own doorstep. I mean, I've been all over the world. I've seen 3,500 species of birds. Which is a third of the world's birds. But I started bird watching in my own back garden. And that's what the Wildlife Trust do better than any other conservation organisation. They're about wildlife on your back doorstep. Local reserves, local green spaces, encouraging people to get out. So I think just talk to people about your passion, your love of wildlife, and persuade them to do what they can do. I mean, I've taken it to the nth degree. I mean, I've become a vegetarian for wildlife reasons. I try to use my car whenever possible. I'm really careful about kind of excessive use of things like plastic. and I'm trying to do I'm trying to fly less. I'm doing lots of environmental things. I'm trying to practice what I preach. But first and foremost, that all started from a love of wildlife. So just speak to anyone who'll listen. Be a fundamentalist for wildlife. Bang the drum and just enjoy what's on your own doorstep, because that's all we've got at the moment, frankly, because we can't travel anywhere.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, we've just had another question come in, so I'll quickly do these last two, and then we'll let everyone get back to their evening. So, second to last question. I've got two young ones, 3 and 6. What helped capture Zachary's interest other than an enthusiastic parent?
I think Zachary's very lucky in many respects because he's got me, and I don't mean it like that. I mean he's lucky because he's got someone who can show him the way and can explain things and in an interesting way and identify things and open his eyes. But I don't necessarily think that you need to know the names of the birds or the names of the trees, whether it's just like stomping in puddles or whether it's collecting leaves. I mean, you don't have to be a knowledgeable naturalist to get a lot out of the natural world. And the great thing is these days is there's Zachary has a green school. So on 1 day a week, they do lots of green school activities. And that's a really big thing. I mean, the Wildlife Trust have got young explorer groups and the RSPB do as well. So there's lots of clubs, maybe not necessarily 3 and 6, but as they get a little bit older, there's lots of clubs that they can join. But I will say that, I mean, wildlife has to compete in a crowded market with children at the moment. I mean, there's computer games. I mean, I'm trying not to swear, but computer games, what a waste of bloody time. You know, it's just, sometimes, for example, you know, Zachary's on television. I say, come on, turn the telly off, we'll go outside. And he's like moaning, but like, as soon as we're outside, he's having a 10 times better time than he is watching television, because wildlife is such an easy sell. There's nothing that beats running around a nature reserve, having a great time in the little park. Even if we're just playing football, we don't have to be watching nature. Just get kids outside. That's the most important thing. Because I mean, social media, and there's a worry at the moment, I think, that a lot of parents consider the outdoors. I think I'm preached to converted here. A lot of people, not members of Wildlife Trust, think of nature reserves and the outdoors as a dirty, dangerous place. It's anything but the case. I mean, they're safe environments. You learn how to risk assess. You learn how to climb a tree and how to jump across a bank and what are the prickly bushes and what are the plants that sting you like nettles. And the dangerous place is in your bedroom with your phone or with the Wi-Fi password and a computer, where you're potentially inviting the world into your bedroom. That's potentially a dangerous place. So it's really down. It's not down to the kids. It's down to the parents and the grandparents, no matter their level of knowledge, to get them outside and get them appreciating, even if they're collecting leaves and just getting a gradation of colors from green all the way to orange during autumn. I mean, there's so many things that you can do. Go online and find lots of things you can do with kids and use your imagination. So I think it's our responsibility to get kids interested, because if you catch them early, they'll have it for life.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much for that, Mike. And just one last quick question. In our neighbourhood, we've noticed that there are more and more cats as people are getting lonely and want company, but they're having a negative impact on the bird population. The ground foragers are not there anymore. Is there anything you can think of, recommend, that we could say to neighbours without putting them off too much?
But cats are a difficult one, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, the Mammal Society did some research work a few years ago, and they found that domestic cats kill 60 million small mammals a year. That's wood mice, bank voles, house mice, field voles. I mean, it's absolutely astonishing, and obviously take a huge number of birds as well. So I didn't realise, I used to see a couple of cats coming into my garden, and then I put a camera trap out just to get, because I've got badgers that come into the bottom of the garden, which we rarely see. So I put a camera trap up, and I realised that 9 cats were coming regularly into my garden. I've got a very powerful hose, which I use personally, and I blast the cats because they also poo in the flower beds, which is not particularly pleasant. But what I would say is that if you get on well with your neighbours, encourage them to put a a bell on the collar. And also, particularly when birds are fledging, I mean, we all know it's kind of basically early, middle May to the end of May, maybe early June. And birds tend to, robins, blackbirds, robins, blue tits, great tits, tend to fledge early in the morning. And that's when they jump out of the nest box. So the youngsters have got all day to get used to their surroundings before they have their first night out on their own. So I would encourage them to put a bell onto their cats or keep them in, particularly during this time. If you've got some blue tits and you know they're about to fledge, and you've got a cat, next door neighbour's cat that comes in the garden all the time, and have a word with them saying, look, we've watched the blue tits on the camera for the last 3 weeks. We've got the most amazing fun out of it. Is there any chance you can keep your cat just in on mornings for the next 2 mornings, just so that we can kind of enjoy them fledging? And if they say no, then they're just frankly crap neighbours. So hopefully, I think if you kind of go about it the right way, then I'm sure they could be persuaded if you do it in the right manner. But yeah, cats are a problem. But you know, a lot of people, as you say, Tanya, take solace from cats, particularly during this tough time.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Mike, for answering all those questions and for your presentation. That's the end of the event. So another huge thank you to our presenters, Jenny and Mike. And Mike, thank you for your continued support as our patron. Thank you for everyone for coming and for donating. And we wish everyone a happy new year and a Merry Christmas. And we hope to see you all again soon. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tanya. Really enjoyed it and very proud to be a patron. And I'm looking forward to coming to Sheffield soon, and have a very safe Christmas and a fabulous new year. And here's to a better 2021. Thank you also very much to Tanya for we've swapped a lot of emails and the practice, and Tanya's done an absolutely brilliant job behind the scenes making this happen. So thank you very much to all the staff at the SRWT as well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Right, I will end now. So everyone enjoy your evening. Thank you. See you soon.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.